The verse of the day is Matthew 6:24, and it says, "No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money." The title of today's portion of scripture is called Teaching About Money and Possessions. And so Jesus is trying to make a point that you can't serve money and me. You can't have anything above me, because if you are constantly worried about money and your focus is always money and your fear is always not having enough and it controls your thought life, that proves that you're putting your trust in money over God. And I'm talking to myself. If God has been trying to teach me any lesson this past year, it's been stop thinking about money and learn to trust me. I am your provider. And learning that lesson, which is such a hard lesson, because in order to surrender more of us and to have God be the leader, we have to let go of our idea that we're the ones that provide, that we're the ones that make it all happen, that we're the ones that have to get all the things to make us have a good life. But anything good comes from Him. He is our provider. He's the one that gives us opportunity. He's the one that pays for everything. And when we learn that lesson, we get to tap into true abundance and release the fear of not having enough, release the fear of failing when it comes to our finances. The lesson about finances is so difficult because it's how we live, right? It's how we eat. It's how we have a roof over our head. It's how we do fun things. It's how we make memories sometimes with the things that we do. So it's so easy to fall into comparison of, oh, I need to do more. I need to make this amount of money. But it's funny because you hear about those that have all the money in the world, the billionaires, and people still don't have that void filled with that money, because true contentment and true happiness doesn't come from worldly things. It comes from within. It comes from Him. I think it's interesting how it says, "For you will hate one and love the other. You'll be devoted to one and despise the other." When money is your focus and you think you need a certain amount and you're not getting it, and you come up against difficult situations and months where you feel like you don't have enough, we start to resent God, right? For not providing or not doing enough for us. Where are we actually trusting Him with our money, or are we trusting the money to provide? And when we don't have enough, we blame God rather than letting go of our fear and worry, trusting in God and praying and contending for abundance and for provision to the one who gives it. And so then when we get things, we understand that He's giving us everything that we need, and we're giving Him an opportunity to show up in a way where we specifically ask. But when it's the latter and our trust is in money and we don't get enough, we start to resent Him, even though He's the one that's providing. And a lot of times I think He doesn't give us all the abundance and finances that we're wanting because our trust is in money. And He wants us to learn that we need to put our trust in Him. We can't have any idols, because that won't be very good for our soul. We will be trapped and bound when money is our God and we're putting our trust in money. Money can't sustain you. Money will fail you. You can have a really good month and a really bad month. So you're going to be on this roller coaster of joy and lack of joy. And this is why we need to be rooted in Him and put our trust in Him, because when we do that, everything falls in the correct order, and we learn that everything good comes from Him, and we're able to maintain our joy and our peace no matter how much we have, because we're understanding that He is enough. This is why it's so important to tithe. The day I started tithing was the day I kind of got set free from fear of money on one level. He takes us on a journey of learning how to surrender more and more when it comes to our finances. And I think tithing is step one of, okay, Lord, thank You for providing. I'm going to give You back what You've given me, because it comes from You. I don't want to ever put the pressure on me that I have to make a way and for it to always be on me, because I will crumble and that will be too overwhelming. So giving God back what He's given us, 10%, is our way of putting it back on Him, trusting Him. And ever since I started tithing, it's been a knowing that He comes through and He provides. Even though there's still fear that comes and knocks, it's really just a settling and a trusting of, okay, Lord, thank You for providing this month. Here, take it back because I trust you with my money and you're the one giving it to me anyways. There is an actual spiritual calming of your heart and your spirit when you do tithe and you give God back what he's given you. It's just a peace. That's all I can really explain when it comes to tithing and trusting God with your money. I was reading a little bit of context before this, and it talked about how back in the day, a lot of the people Jesus was talking to were very, very poor. And that statement, daily bread, was a thing they had to live out. They had to ask for their daily bread because they were living one day at a time. And when you're living one day at a time, I'm sure the worry can easily creep in. I'm sure it's a daily decision to die to what you think you need to do in trusting God. So when we learn the lesson of denying our worry and trusting God, putting our trust back in him, it allows us to have more peace of mind and real estate in our mind to focus on him. And when we're not putting our trust in money and we're focusing on him, we're able to listen to what he wants us to do with that money and the strategy he has for us to maybe build off that money and have more opportunity. But when we're rooted in fear and we're trying to hurry up and keep all that we have and we're afraid of losing it, it prevents God from multiplying it and blessing it because we're putting our trust in that rather than him. He wants to bless us all abundantly and give us more than we could ever ask or imagine, but we need to put our trust in him, because if our trust is in money and he keeps giving you money, that's not a very good father. That's him allowing you to put your trust in something that can't sustain you and can't give you a fulfilling heart and make your heart whole. Only he can. If I'm honest, I've seen this verse kind of play out in my life in this past year in terms of learning how to trust him completely with my finances. No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. When you start to let worry take hold and you start to think that you have to make it all happen and you have to create all the funds and have enough, and you have to go do your part, and if you don't, then you're gonna fail and not have enough, you will start to let other ideas of what you need to do in terms of, oh, I probably need this job, I need to do this, I need to make this happen, I need to not give here, you start to tighten up and actually wear yourself out and think you need to do so much more in order to gain enough money. And I believe a lot of times that distracts you from what God is doing in you right now. The amount of times I started to look for other opportunities and other jobs, but I was like, no, I think God is keeping me here. I need to stay here. I need to just withstand and trust. But so many times I started to look for a new job. I started to think, should I do this? Should I not do this? And this is what happens when you put your trust in money and in you rather than in God. Because when you put it in God, you gain the peace necessary to walk out the path that doesn't make sense a lot of times, but it's the one that's fulfilling and full of purpose and full of life, and the one that forces you to fully surrender and trust his way, and to trust that he is your provider and he will give you everything that you need. So I think today we can look at ourselves. Where are we serving two masters? Where can we surrender more with our finances and put our trust back in him and honor him with our money? Because we cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. Talking to myself. Okay?